Welcome to the DL Gaming Podcast. This episode, we're going to be talking about Bloodshed, Alpha Centauri, Neva? I guess we'll find out, and Marvel Rivals. But first, my name is Christian.
I'm Amanda.
I'm Bobby.
And I'm Nick. And Amanda, I think you have some good news for us about a new Patreon member.
Yeah, actually, we've got Jay Beck on Patreon now. Thank you very much. You know, he's pretty active. I believe this is Jay Beck Quest that's on Discord and pretty active and engaging in our discussions. So thank you. Welcome to the fold and welcome to the Pixel Shit Show, which you can find yourself if you want to email us at pixelshitshow@gmail.com. And you can find all that information at dlgaming.net and come join us on Patreon if you want to.
Just a heads up,
Cool.
You have been added to an FBI watch list now, though. So,
Yes.
sorry, buddy.
Congrats!
Yeah. The government is
You are
tracking
assigned your
everything.
own FBI agent, and he'll contact you soon.
Nice. Just one of the perks you can get for paying us money on Patreon. Your own FBI agent that tracks everything you do. Okay. On this show, we ping things, which is just noting something interesting. And I got to say, community game nights are back, baby. Thanks to Tag Loro, who is hosting these. Our next community game night will be on January 25th. And a lot of these game nights are going to overlap with like Steam festivals. So you'll be able to purchase the games for cheap. Sometimes we'll play old hits. Sometimes we'll play new games off Steam. But you will be able to vote on what we're playing for these game nights. And the first game night theme, since I will be attending, is, of course, RTS games. So Tag has a great list so far. I think he's going to put the poll up by Tuesday. So make sure to check out Discord and vote for what RTS game you'd like to play. Don't play Warcraft 3 with Bobby. He'll just rifleman rush you. And he's very proud of that. He's very proud of that move.
Despicable. Absolutely despicable.
My one and only strategy.
And it's a good one. It's also a special day today because it's Amanda's. I had the number with me. You know what? I think third year of being on this podcast. So 2 thumbs up for Amanda. Some claps in the background you can't hear. Woo! Woo!
Oh yeah, I remember when I first came into the studio in San Diego and I was so nervous. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
I get to
I'm
meet
actually
the
here,
cast.
guys.
Yeah. Started
This is
from a
kinda neat.
listener and now we're here. It's pretty neat.
Exactly. That could be, well, I don't know. I shouldn't make false promises. Bobby, what are you pinging this week?
This week, I've got some exciting news about Lorcana. Remember that game? I used to talk
Yes.
about it all the time. Yeah. So apparently there was a job posting by Ravensburger. They're the company that creates Lorcana, the Disney TCG. And they had a job posting for a digital TCG designer with Lorcana knowledge. So
Oh.
it sounds like we're going to get a digital version of Lorcana, an official one coming out who knows when, but maybe they're working on it if they're posting a job like that. So that's exciting. There was Pixelborn, and that was fantastic. And then it got shut down. And when it got shut down, I thought surely they must have something ready to go, like something to replace this, because it was so good. And honestly, it kind of killed the momentum and my enthusiasm for that game when they took that away. But hopefully in the near future, we'll be seeing an official digital version of this game.
They canceled it a little soon, hey? They're like, it's ready. And then they're like, it's not ready. Like some guy in the back
We
is
need
like,
to hire
"Not ready."
people for this.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, so Bobby, does this mean you're going to prorogue your selling of your Lorcana cards?
Oh, no,
Until
that
this
already
comes out?
happened. Yeah, those are already
Really?
in the mail. Yeah.
Wow.
I know it sucks, but you know what? That's okay because I think if I were to get back into it again, like playing live and in person, which is great, it absolutely a digital version of any TCG cannot replace what it's like to be at a local game store playing cards with other people. And if I were to get back into it, I would really just buy the cards that I need off of tcgplayer.com to build the deck that I want and just leave it at that. I wouldn't do any sort of collecting at all. I think that's just a fool's errand with TCGs. The way they release like 3 new sets a year, 4 new sets a year, it's just ridiculous.
Nice.
Laughs and Magic. Now it's 6 sets a year minimum. And I'm like,
Oh,
Yeah.
man.
Yep.
oof. Speaking of financial problems, The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau of the United States is looking for cases of wrongdoing in regards to digital currencies. So your Fortnite bucks, your RP in League of Legends, or any kind of digital currency that you can buy through a game. The CFPB is looking for any kind of wrongdoing cases that you may have due to the fact that there is a new act that was passed, which is the Electronic Finances Transaction Act, which is looking to protect consumers regarding these situations, i.e., sometimes companies will change the price of like how much their currencies cost based on like user influx, which is technically like not good and sort of a predatory practice and things like that. And so they're just trying to refine the laws that are being established under this new act so that gamers are more protected.
Nice. In 2018, hopefully I can get this money back. In 2018, I accidentally clicked like 6 buttons and put my credit card information in Blizzard and purchased 10,000 Heroes of the Storm little shards, totally accidentally. And I think I would like that back. I think it was like $5.99 or something. I could really
You got to be careful, man. Sometimes when you trip and fall on your keyboard,
yeah,
that card, it'd just be swiping.
I've accidentally ordered like 6 magic cards in one time.
That's crazy.
But I do have like a relevant story about this. So we all know about like Nicholas facts, right? Where I say something completely out of left field and sometimes it's right, sometimes it's not wrong. There's fans of either way.
I like that. Sometimes.
Anyways. There was a moment where I was talking to one of my friends that one of our mutual friends received $90 back from Fortnite. And it turns out that this act that was passed and enabled them to get, like, it forced Fortnite to refund people that were buying currencies at certain times. And one of our friends got $90. And he's like, You're lying, blah, blah, blah. You're just making stuff up. And he's like, what the fuck? How do I get my money back? And it turns out that he spent like $100 in the game and no one, like, he didn't buy it at a time that was like considered exploitative. So it's very interesting on like the wording and like what cases they're looking for to support their arguments. So
well, I'm looking for that big payout. $5.99 Blizzard. Where is my $6?
Give me my fucking money, Blizzard.
They're only going to give you store credit though. So
decals. Yeah.
Yeah.
I need my loonies and my
tunes, Heroes
okay?
of the Storm and have so much fun. Get addicted, I guess. Small price to pay for $5.99. Amanda, what do you got?
Yeah, so this week I'm pretty excited. I reached out to this solo game dev. His name's Benjamin McCarthy is what he goes by. He's got, assuming that's his name, he's got a game that he started on a Kickstarter called Dream Shark. He made an emulator for it. It's supposed to be done like Game Boy Color, and he actually ended up making actual Game Boy Color cartridges that work on the old consoles. I first ran into him at these Portland Saturday markets. As Bobby knows, Portland is weird, and it was awesome walking around seeing all these people make all kinds of things. And his shop was, I thought, just really fascinating because he went to like all these lengths to make his stuff just look really, really cool. Like he had all this art, he had actual little trading cards, like magic cards from the characters in the game. And so I got the chance to talk to him for a while, and it sounded like he made a really cool game because he first started as a musician making like psychedelic rock, and then he became an artist and painted a bunch of his stuff, and then decided he was going to turn his world from his music and art into an actual video game and take a whole bunch of different things from like the old Pokemon and Super Mario and like kind of mush them all together. There's puzzles in there. And so I've actually been playing the game on my phone because it's an emulator, and so you can play it on the PC as well, but you can play it on your phone. And so I reached out to him for an interview, and he's going to be my January interview. So that interview is coming up. I will be meeting with him on Tuesday. So if anybody has any questions for this game, you got only a few days, but reach out and ask any questions that you've got, because I will be watching and paying attention, and I'm definitely going to be talking to him soon. So I'm looking forward to that. And then you guys can look forward to hearing that.
This looks like a fever dream.
It's wild.
Like, I'm just watching the trailer. I'm like, the VR people wear their VR masks to bed I don't know. It's spooky. It's weird. Well, not spooky. It's just weird.
It's wild. He had mentioned at the markets that a lot of people kind of forget that children are around or they don't, but they don't realize how little things make such a huge impact on a child just on a day-to-day basis. And so like in his game, playing his game, you are this child named Tack, and all you want to be is like a VR engineer designing worlds for when people go to sleep. Because when everybody goes to sleep, and in order for everybody to get a good night's sleep, they put on these VR headsets to sleep. And so they have all these worlds inside of them, and you can go to the different worlds when you're playing in the game. And so I just feel like this game is so incredibly impressively made by somebody who originally wasn't into creating video games at all. And so really looking forward to chatting with him. He's a really cool guy, and I think everybody should definitely check out this game because it's neat. Like, I just think it's super fascinating, and it's quite a genuine like indie story and indie development.
Sweet. Looks interesting.
Look forward
I
to
can't
the
wait to
interview.
hear that interview. Yeah. You do great interviews, Amanda. It's gonna be
Thanks,
great.
guys.
I was gonna say something, but I completely forgot. Now we're gonna do highlights. So these are the games we've been playing this week, and Bob is gonna start us off. What do we got?
This week, I'm going to be talking about Bloodshed. If you remember a couple months ago, Bloodshed was probably the best of the demos that I played during Steam Next Fest. So I did get a copy of this game, and I'm excited. I was excited to try out like the proper game, not just the demo. This is a retro first-person shooter survivors-like with some roguelite element. So basically, you're going to boomer shooter your way through an endless wave of enemies. You get upgrades, you become more powerful, and it's even got some boss fights in it, which is cool. I definitely enjoy the retro style graphics there. Feels very much like the games that I grew up on. And the campaign mode. So the demo, it kind of gave you just a taste of it, and there really wasn't too much to go off of, but they've got a campaign mode here. And although it's very sparse, it gives you an idea of the potential of this game. Really, the campaign mode is just, what do they call them? Time trials, where basically it says you've got to survive for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, something like that. So the first two levels I played, and I thought, man, this is unfortunate because I'm really not liking this game. Like, it felt slow paced. It felt like the upgrades were coming slow, and it just didn't feel like what you expect from a survivors like, where there's just like waves of enemies and you're mowing them down and you're getting all these upgrades and you're mixing and matching them and creating these combos that are really cool. But by the time I got to the third level, it was better. The third level, I think it had a lot to do. I was unlocking the different playable characters, which there's now, I think, 4 total of them. And I played the mage character, and that was like, this is what I wanted from the game, was the mage character. So my original complaint about this game when I played the demo was that it felt weird to switch between the weapons because there's no ammo. You're trying to kill as many enemies as you can, and you're upgrading your weapons as you get more experience during the level. So if you upgrade one weapon, why would you ever switch to the other one? You even have a melee weapon on some characters, and it's, for the most part, it feels pretty useless because you're never going to use it. You're obviously just going to stick with the strongest weapon. Now, on top of that, you can get other like spells and abilities that just auto fire along with the weapon that you have. And so the mage plays just like that. The mage can only equip, I say the mage, but I think the character has a different name. It's like Lady something. But you only equip one, like up to 2 guns on that character. And then she's all about spells, just having those not passive spells, but those auto cast spells going off. So once I found that character, then I really started to hit a groove with this game. And what's really cool too is after you're done with the first level, there's a boss fight. I love boss fights. I feel like we just don't do those enough in games anymore for some reason. Now, all that being said,
Wait, what?
I don't know. Is it just
That's
me?
the
Or is there,
honest take I've my
No, there's a lot of games that don't have boss fights. Like,
What?
well, I mean,
what games are missing boss fights that need boss
oh, they don't
fights?
have enough.
for me, the turning point was Far Cry 3 because
Oh yeah, that's right.
you remember that game? So you remember when you had a boss fight and it ended up just being like a quick time event or something, basically?
Yeah.
And I was like,
Yeah.
wow, this is like, weird. At first I was kind of relieved, like, oh, cool. Like I don't have to like struggle through a boss fight or something. But then after a while, it's just like this doesn't feel right. And then I don't know, ever since then, I felt like games have kind of trended away from that. But who knows what I don't know what I'm talking about. I don't play AAA. I don't have my finger on the pulse here. I'm playing these weird indie games. What do I know?
just thought Deep Rock Galactic Survivor has those end of the run boss fights, I guess is what I was attributing. Because this is a survivor's like, and that's like the last kind of one of these games that you've played.
Yeah.
And those boss fights are incredibly satisfying when you beat them. It feels like, I did a good challenge because that was kind of difficult.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and those get even crazier later too, because they spawn like 2 little mini bosses. It's nuts. I'm still like super deep into that game. So going back to Bloodshed, what I want to say about this game is it's got like the bones are there, but this game needs a ton more content right now. It's like maybe 2 hours worth of gameplay if you beat the levels on the first run, because they give you one mission. And there's, how these survivors like operate. You play around, you get a bunch of currency and you spend that to get permanent upgrades. There's only like 3 different upgrades that you can buy right now. I mean, there's a couple levels to each, but there's basically 3 different kinds of upgrades you can get right now, and that's it. And then there's maybe 4 playable characters, and then like a total of 3 levels in a boss fight. Like there's just really not enough. But if you go to their Steam page and you check out their roadmap, they've got all this stuff planned out. Like they're going to have a bunch more content, and they specify like around what time it's going to be coming out. So I got a feeling that this game is going to be really good in time, but it got me thinking, like, what does that hurt a game if they release it too early in the development? And Christian, you probably have more insight into this, but I know something that we've experienced before. And if Emilio were here, he'd back me up on this. You play a game in early access, it's a little underdeveloped, it's a little undercooked, and you're like, okay, well, I'll come back to that. But then, months later, you're on to something else. There's a million other games to play, and you've totally forgot about that game. And like, unless something happens, you're not even going to remember that game and come back to it.
Totally. Yeah. We tell our clients at work that your early access launch has to be considered a full launch. Like, but it has to be fun, obviously, because even though it has early access, people are going to purchase it on Steam, and if they don't have fun, they're going to downvote it. Second, it has to be pretty feature complete, at least with the core gameplay loop and the longevity of it, because people are going to play it as a regular game, and they're comparing versus other early access games that they've experienced, like Valheim and, these like Hades, like pre-release Hades, early access Hades, where it's like, fuck, this is a really good game in early access, right? So you're still competing with really great games. And when you release a game that is a little bit lacking completely, as you said, it's very hard to regain that attention. I feel like few people are like me, and even I don't follow up with it. I have a folder that says replay in 1.0 on Steam, like a category. I throw all my games in early access in there that I want to experience when they fully launch. But guaranteed most people aren't doing that. And unfortunately, maybe even when they play this game, they're going to give it a negative review because it didn't have the amount of content that they might have expected. So yeah. And we've all experienced that, right? Buying an early access game and kind of being like,
oh, yeah.
And, I was wondering too, because a few weeks ago, was it last week or 2 weeks ago? We had our Game of the Year episode a while back. And I feel like early access games don't qualify at all for any kind of gaming awards, let alone like the official game awards. Not only that, I don't know if I've ever seen a game that wasn't early access, then got a 1.0 release, then won an award. Maybe it's happened. I'd have to do a little more research.
No Man's Sky. No Man's Sky. Yeah.
Was that an early access, or did they just Bethesda it, where they launched it, broke it, and then fixed it over
Sorry,
years?
You're right, dude. It didn't launch in early access. Sorry, you're right. But Hades is a better example that Nick said. Yeah.
Oh, Baldur's Gate 3. That's true. That was in early access. Or they had
for a long time.
Yeah. Okay, so there's one example.
One current example I have of it, in the last month, is Path of Exile 2. It's early access right now, but the thing is, like Christian said, is that the game has its bones. It has its main gameplay loop, It has the first 3 acts of the game, which is like a solid 60 hours of gameplay if you want to do it with like 2 or 3 characters. But the issue is there's still a bunch missing from the game, i.e. like you can't use swords, you can't use axes, you can't use like a bunch of other different types of martial weapons. And it's not to say that you need those things to be able to play the game, but like some of the spells and like abilities require those types of weapons. And so that's the game, the first game in a long time where I played it. I go, this is amazing. I like it. I'm not going to play more than 4 hours of it. I'm going to put it down and I'm going to pick it up when it comes out at 1.0.
Yeah.
And it's the first time in a long time that's happened. And yeah, just Path of Exile 2 is something that I look forward to, but I have a friend who put 80 hours into it. I go, bro, you played 80 hours and you used 2 different types of weapons. Like, how are you enjoying this? Like, how? And he's just like, it's better than Diablo the way it is. And I'm like, you're not wrong.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
But I'm not going to play a game that's going to wipe and I'm going to lose all my progress when it releases fully. So,
Nick, say I was a billionaire who liked to meddle in elections. If I was playing Path of Exile 2, could I pay 4 to 7 Indian students some sort of rock bottom wage to level up my character, then go live on Twitch claiming that I did all of this myself for Path of Exile 2? Do you know if I could do that?
of course, you can do that in any game, actually. Most games nowadays, you can buy accounts for very cheap, from Magic the Gathering Arena to fucking Call of Duty to... like most games that have a rank or leveling up system, especially if they unlock cosmetics, you can actually buy them online. And what's terrible is that most of the time that you can actually buy those accounts and see their monetary value compared to the other accounts that have the same accolades or closer. It used to be that you used to be able to sell your League of Legends account. It would scan your account for all of the skins you have, the rarity based on those skins and what characters you had, and then it would tell you how much your account's worth. And if you played ranked, if you were at a certain rank, your account would multiply in value. So if you were like Diamond or Grandmaster, like anything like that, it would multiply in value. And it's something that really kind of fucking sucks that people started doing nowadays. That all started with EverQuest and like World of Warcraft, in all honesty, because it would be such a time sink to level up a character to level 60 that when people already had 2 level 60 characters, they would pay a lot of money, like $300, $400. I mean, at the time it was a lot of money, but $300 to $400 to buy one character at level 60, just bare bones. And that's just how it was.
Cool. I wonder if I owned like 7 companies, if I could do the same thing. Anyways, now I'm just thinking completely out of the box. Bobby, anything left on Bloodshed?
No, that's it on Bloodshed. If I remember, I'll check in with this game later. It's $7.99 right now, so pretty low price tag, not a huge investment. So if this sounds interesting to you, I'd definitely throw it on the wish list at least, and then maybe check in on it in a couple months.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, like boomer shooters, Souls-like. I mean, to me, a lot of boomer shooters already feel pretty hectic, and like enemies are... I'm just thinking of the last one. I mean, I played this so long ago, but Nightmare Reaper, like constant swarm of enemies at you. But I guess it doesn't have that like whatever the constant upgrades every so often that enhance your abilities. That part, I guess it doesn't have.
Yeah,
So
I mean, it's a good fit for survivors. Like it really does work. It needs more content.
cool. Okay.
Yeah.
A game we haven't heard at all about.
Speaking of more content, Marvel Rivals got their season 1 update, and people are like, what the fuck does that mean? And a lot of people returning to the game because of the update are very surprised at what has changed. There's like 1.5 new maps, because every map is like in 2 forms, because there's 2 main game modes. There's 2 new characters in the set of 4. The other 4 characters will be released in the other half of the season, which I believe is in 4 weeks. Everyone's ranks got reset. Everything kind of got restarted. And then there's kind of like a new baseline now. The reason being is that so last season's battle pass, which was like a preseason battle pass, only featured 4 or 5 unique skins that you could earn through it. And the way that you earn skins through the battle pass is actually pretty nice, and you can do it without the premium pretty well. However, in this new battle pass, it's 10. It's 10 new skins and cosmetics that you can get instead of just 5. There's way more stuff besides just emotes and name tags. However, that's not the only thing that they changed about the game. They added 2 new characters. The whole update is Fantastic Four themed. So you have Mr. Fantastic, who is a duelist or like DPS, and then the Invisible Woman, or Susan the Storm is the real name, who is a support character, and she's so popular that support has almost doubled in the amount of players that people that want to play it. And the reason why she's popular is because not only does she do damage, but she actually has a lot of utility spells or abilities that are very conducive to playing the game as a support.
Is that girl? I saw someone on a streamer on Twitter being like, "Oh my god, is that my ass on this character?" She does body models for like 3D modeling, and she submits them as like reference pictures to like game studios, like professionally. And she's like, "I think this character is my ass." And then she posted a follow-up. She's like, "I messaged the studio and they said, yeah, they used me as a reference." And then like side by side, she's like, "It's my ass in the game."
That's hilarious.
She was pretty excited. She's like, "It's my ass. It's my ass."
I don't think I could pick my ass out of a lineup. That's pretty impressive.
I mean, I got Hank Hill butt, so my ass is pretty recognizable.
Come on, dude. Badonk and donk. Sorry.
That's also pretty great. I was just literally thinking about that because I played Marvel Rivals actually right before we started recording, and I don't like fighting Mr. Fantastic. That's for starters. And Invisible Woman's definitely awesome. There was a moment where I was playing Black Widow, and then my partner was Invisible Woman, and then I think Cloak and Dagger was right there. And I had a moment where I was seriously like, "Oh my god, the jiggle physics and the design of the asses on all of the female characters, except maybe Squirrel Girl, but like all the characters, and even some of the dudes too." I'm just like, the asses in this game are, I mean, for free, guys.
Boy, howdy,
y'all have
dude.
to check
There's
it
some
out.
mods for you, buddy.
There's mods for Marvel Rivals. Cool.
Yeah, the physics in that game are quite hilarious, to say the least. As far as things that have been buffed and people are playing them way more now is Venom, Thor, and Black Widow. Venom was considered underpowered due to his ult not doing that much damage. He also didn't have enough survivability. And then Thor, his ult now makes him unstoppable, which was like a big thing. It's like, hey, I'm going to ult, and then he would all of a sudden just be stopped by like the simplest form of CC. And then Black Widow just got a bunch of things changed about her. But the main thing that the game changed that people are so happy about is that Hawkeye and Hela were both nerfed. Essentially, Hawkeye can't just one-shot or two-shot most champions anymore. And then Hela have had essentially her whole kit reworked to the point where she's not broke, she's not unplayable, but she's also not broken. Just certain numbers were shifted.
To a certain amount, these seem like patch notes. Like, why should anyone listen? Like, what is it to you? What do you find? Like, obviously you're playing a lot. Like, is it better? Is it worse?
So it's way better. So essentially, instead of everybody playing the same champions when you play ranked or just playing like normal games, it's now very varied. Like everybody's playing Invisible Woman and Mr. Fantastic because they're new. They're not the best characters in the game at all. But what it is now with all this stuff being added, it's a better time to jump in because you're not going to be bullied by the same characters, and because someone else picks them before you, you're not going to be like unavailable to play these characters either. The other thing is that with more people playing support, there's now way more spots open to play other positions. And that was like the biggest problem was that unless you had a fast computer and you can lock in something and you locked in DPS or you locked in tank, whoever had the slowest computer would be locked into support, or they would just fucking leave. And so ranked games were just plagued with leavers because the leaving punishments aren't that bad. Normal games had levers because the leaving punishments aren't that bad. And so now it's a little bit more forgiving, I guess you can say, to new players. So I would definitely pick this up if you could.
Were you experiencing that? A whole bunch of people leaving and stuff? I mean, I 100%. Do feel like, oh, damn, dude, that sucks. Because, yeah, I feel like I agree with you that, like, with this update, there's been, I feel a lot more variety in characters. Like, I'm seeing people mix and match and kind of switch them up. I'm still seeing, like, I feel like every time I play, somebody is being Scarlet Witch or somebody's being maybe Mantis or Jeff. But, like, ultimately, like, I do feel like there has been a pretty solid variety. But I did feel that buff to Black Widow, dude. And I gotta tell you, when you are sitting there going back and forth with Storm, who's flying back back and forth, and you're like, gotcha, bitch, and just shoot her right out of the sky. It's a great feeling. And but it feels much more fun to play now, and I didn't know that they buffed him, but that's great.
And Storm is actually, speaking of, this is the last thing I'll say about the game before we move on. Storm was actually the number one character to be requested to be buffed. And the reason being is that she has like these amazing powers and these amazing abilities, but they hit like wet noodles. So they upped her projectile speed. They upped the fact that like the hitbox for it. They made some of her abilities do more damage and like some of the cooldown shorter. And so she's an actual viable hero. And what was terrifying is that me and my friends were playing, right? And there are these special portraits you get when you get to level 40 of mastery to a certain character. And anybody can get these. It's just like a little special portrait and has like these little polygons behind it. And they usually have an alternate pose for the character, right? Well, this dude had, and the only reason I say he's a dude, his name was Mr. Dingus Fart. Anyways.
I love internet names.
It was Mr. Dingus Fart. He had 40 hours plus with Storm. And that's when she was shit. And then we started the game and he was dominating. Like he knew every single little thing to do with that character. And it was just very interesting to see someone like a master in their craft, essentially.
Mr. Dingus Fart. I feel like whenever we
Dingus
play
Fart.
a multiplayer PvP game, we have to keep track of like funny usernames. Mr. Dingus Fart has got to be up there.
There's actually somebody who has an Instagram page now that's just devoted to Marvel Rivals usernames. And there's some pretty good ones. Rolling
awesome.
Bagel. Some other ones are pretty funny.
Someone liked one of our reels. Nick was talking about Astrobot on our Game of the Year episode, and it made a good little segment. So it was up there. And then the first person to like it, I can't remember their exact name, but it was like ass underscore or prostate underscore cancer underscore almost die. I don't know. It was like some bullshit. And I was like,
a story.
Why did you name yourself this? The internet, I guess that's why. You can be anonymous or you can be Robert. That's right. You can use your real first name on here. No one's stopping you.
That's right.
It's Robert. Thank you.
Robert.
This
Robert.
Marvel Rivals update, by the way, like 20 gigs on Steam.
Holy shit.
It's huge.
Yeah.
God damn. Are you guys
Well,
all in
it
the
has
rivals?
to-
Am I the
I
only
mean,
non-rivaler?
Yeah, I think you should
I
get
don't
on it.
expect
I
you
mean,
to.
and I'm not surprised that it's 20
No, you
gigs
won't.
to hold Mr. Fantastic's incredible length that he can reach. You know what I mean? You gotta, all the pixels that's gotta extend. It's 20 gigs,
Right.
dude. Like,
All right, Amanda, what do you got this week?
so I've got a game that I have played. The Darth Raider actually gifted me this game, full disclosure, which I was super stoked about because I heard about this game on the Game Awards. They're the ones that won Best Impact. And so this game is called Neva. At first, I didn't know if it was Neva or or how to pronounce it, but actually in the game, she says the character's name. So this game
Thank
is
God.
yeah, right? Because I'm like, man, I'm from the Midwest. Mispronouncing is kind of in my bread and butter. But like, so
It's never.
it's Neva. It is Neva. And so it's this young woman where she has this bond with I actually didn't really know that this was a wolf. To me, this actually looked a lot like a fox with antlers, because this game did such a cool job of taking a whole bunch of creatures that we are familiar with, like bison and deer and wolves, and then just tweaking them just a little bit to make them kind of like fantastical and magical in a way. It's like I said, it was a platformer. It's wonderful on the Steam Deck. Like, this is what I've been playing a lot on my Steam Deck now, is this game. It visually is just beautiful in the way that they use the colors. The puzzles are achievable and pretty nice. You kind of follow the story of training and exploring this world with this very small wolf who, like I said, to me looks like a fox, but it makes more sense because it sounds like a dog a lot of times when you're running. And you can call Neva and wake her up and do all kinds of these different things, which in the beginning I was about to rage, honestly, because you guys know how I feel about people that make like the weird noise, like like when they have the text. Like, I thought that we were going to go this way with this, but no, they were actually very silent during the text, because in the very first thing you do is you're supposed to wake up Neva, and you like go up to the wolf and you wake her up and I just hear Neva, and I'm like, well, no, dude, like this is gonna be bad. But then she'll be like Neva, like, and so the voice actually changes with different callings and what she's doing. The combat in it feels really nice and fluid, and the enemies are pretty fun to fight and really entertaining. I'm at this moment right now where I'm not sure if it's the boss. I think it's the boss, but there is these like kind of dark creatures that kind of hinge back and forth on how they move, but they have a mask that reminds me of Spirited Away. And there's an enormous one that's just chasing you and like doing like a stampede. And you go through all these different biomes of like a swamp and the mountains. And this is one of the most visually beautiful games I think I have ever seen. I think the art style is really wonderful, but I think so much of what makes this game actually really incredible is the lighting and the way that they've used color and different color palettes and things like that combined to just make this game like really it's atmospheric, and I can absolutely see why. I also can see why it has a great impact, because it's weird. They don't do a whole lot for story, and yet the story really sticks it home. It's really interesting. So I think a lot of it kind of goes through with grief. Like this game has reminded me of Spiritfarer and how like impactful and beautiful that story is, but plays and visually reminds me more of something like I think I'm probably gonna mispronounce this, but like Gris or Grease or Grice, whatever.
Gris.
Gris.
It's
Gree. Yeah. So see, I'm wrong. Gree. So, but this game's really awesome. I definitely recommend this. It's beautiful. Devolver's the one that published it, but Nomada Studio is the one that made it. It's doing really well, and of course, it reminds me of Gree. They are the ones that made Gree, so that makes a lot of sense, actually. Right? Lines up, but it's got of all reviews, 94% very positive, and this game is fun, especially if you're looking for a Steam Deck game. This game's awesome on the deck. Like I said,
cool.
It's just beautiful. And so there's moments where you're climbing and you're jumping over things and puzzles, and the way that they play with dark and light and death and life and growth is just like really awesome and beautiful. But this game certainly has got me thinking a lot. They talk a lot, like there's a lot of themes in this too, of grief and of loss and the fear that kind of comes from that, and the fear that comes from the unknown. And
all
they
without
play
words.
with that a lot.
Just
without words. And it's
That's
just
cool.
visual.
Yeah.
So this is a really cool game. And like I said, there's puzzles and there's fighting, and the story and the things that they do show. I mean, they really don't speak a lot in it, and they really don't talk a lot, and yet their ability to truly like express a story and feelings that hit so close to home. It's just, I think it's really impressive. I honestly would actually love to interview these guys, because this is an awesome game. I can see definitely.
Hey, you already interviewed one award-winning.
That's my in, man.
Game designer,
I talked to the 2022 best game impact for the Game Awards. Let's make it 2024 is the next one. Yeah.
And do 2023 too. Round them all up. Let's go. Let's interview all of them. That's cool.
Exactly.
That's cool. But it's been so long since I've played a platformer, and this one says how long to beat is 4 hours, which seems completely achievable. Like in 4 days, basically. When I'm feeding my daughter, usually she falls asleep right away in the morning. That is my time to get a little gaming in, and maybe an hour, 45-minute session before I start the workday or before I start the day on the weekend. I'm looking for little games that I can complete, because I guess my problem with, spoiler alert, not totally very good at video games when it comes to reaction times and stuff like platformers. Usually I get 20% of the way through the game, and then I'm like, fuck, this is actually really hard and I can't beat it. So something with story, something atmospheric. This reminds me, when you were talking about it, of Brothers, A Tale of Two Sons. Was that the title of that game? Am I remembering that title properly? That was an atmospheric, kind of easy, not quite a platformer, but co-op game where a lot of the storytelling was done through just the gameplay and what you see in the game.
Yeah, that's interesting. I've actually not heard of Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons. I don't think that one was me. But that
No, I think
looks
that
very
was
pretty.
Yeah,
And
I think
looks very
Bobby's
nice.
played that. Bobby and Emilio played that game at one point.
Long,
Maybe
long
just
time ago.
Emilio.
That was
Yeah.
the first game, I believe, by Joseph Ferris.
Oh, that's him. That makes
Mhm.
sense. Co-op king, that guy. 2 players. He got that tattoo. He doesn't have the tattoo. I just made that up.
Well, I will warn you though that the Tale of Two Brothers is co-op, but Neva is not. Neva is a single player game. It kind
Yeah,
of feels, and I said it's like Spiritfarer, which Spiritfarer you can play 2 players, but not with Neva. It's just first player or just single
Okay.
player. Sorry, but it's
Cool.
certainly worth it. I think it's beautiful. It'd be fun to watch.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Guys, it's the moment everyone has been waiting for. You've waited. I don't know how long you've waited. This game came out that I'm about to talk about 1999. So, been waiting for a long time for me to talk about this. First of all, has anyone played this game, Alpha Centauri? Has anyone played it? Sid Meier's
Nope.
Alpha Centauri. Nope.
I've
Amanda?
not.
Nope. We got no's. Okay. So this is the 1999 spiritual successor to Civilization 2. Except it is kind of like a branch off. Yeah, and it's a 4X game, obviously, on a mysterious alien planet. And it is mysterious. So first of all, Pyronicle, thank you for requesting this. Pyronicle used his yearly patron renewal perk that you get if you're sub to us for a year on Patreon to make us play any game, and he chose this one. And what a treat this was for me. I was like, say no more. What you want me to play? What else do you want me to play? Civ 5?
He's like,
Crusader
no.
Kings 1? Don't make me do something I clearly would love to do. When I was a kid, I played this game on my auntie's computer. This is one of the ones that played this, Star Wars Rebellion, and some of the other games she had. So I had no idea what I was doing at the time there, because this game is very complex, even for me right now to play it. I don't completely understand all the systems that are going on. So yeah, I didn't know what I was doing as a kid, still don't know what I was doing now. And then Civilizations Beyond Earth. That is one that came out, I think 2019 or something, which was like the reimagining of this 4X on a mysterious alien planet idea. And I didn't enjoy that. And a lot of people didn't. It has mixed reviews on Steam. If I had to pinpoint a reason why, I just feel like, meh, it just wasn't very satisfying. But so 4X games usually don't have what this game has. And after playing this game, I really want to see a lot more of this, which is a mysterious story. Like the story in this game is first. The 4X competitiveness of you're expanding, you're exploiting resources is second. That's just a way to experience the story. And usually it's flipped around, or the story doesn't even exist, right? There's no story in a game of Civ with friends. Usually the story's in your head, which that can be really satisfying. But this was a treat, guys. This was really good. Okay, so this game does a lot of things well. Just quick list. Unit customization. So you can customize every single unit. When you unlock tech, what laser do you want on? What chassis do you want on? Do you want this unit to be able to carry other units? Do you want this unit to have faster propulsion? All that can be edited. So that is very complex, and that's completely gone in any Civ games. Unclear tech trees. So it's a game with a mysterious story. And when you choose tech, you're like, have 5 options, and your scientists are like, what kind of area would you like us to focus on, guy? And you're like, I don't know, military. And then they just give you random military techs in no particular order. There's no way for you to select, like, I want to get the next best lasers. You can't do that. Maybe they'll give you the next best lasers, or maybe they'll give you the next best armor, or maybe they'll give you the next best unit production. And the way they present the technologies is just also kind of a mysterious story. Like you get a pop up and it would be like, Spartan Command has made a breakthrough in, and like this weird voice will come on and it'll have like all this lore about the technology. It just sells it well. You can tell that they're putting this before any ease for the player, right? This is all very confusing and cumbersome. This game isn't going to be for everyone, and that's kind of cool. This exploration around the planet is very slow, so it takes a long time to see what's going on this mysterious Earth. And when I was finished, their action the after action report screen, like the screen with all the stats and stuff, was amazing. It had a time lapse of the growth of everyone's borders and a time lapse of the terraforming of the whole planet, and it writes you a little poem about like your experience on your playthrough, and of course gives you the stats and everything. But I was like, what's this? Why isn't this in Civ? I would love this. This is amazing. This is like a really good conclusion to, you know, a lot of effort that these games take up. The game's theme just shines through everything. So I've talked about these cumbersome tech trees. You land on the planet, all these colony pods are scattered. They form all the different civilizations. You are one of these colony pods, and you start to encounter this red fungus that's growing everywhere. You're like, what is this fungus? I can't harvest it, but my people seem to really enjoy it. Boom. Mind worms, they spawn, and they start to kill all your people. You're like, ah, shit, should have seen that coming. I had a story moment where my scientists came to me and they were like, we can breed these mind worms in captivity and use them to take over the other colonies. Of course, I said yes, that seems like a great idea, but you slowly start to learn that there's more to these creatures than meets the eye. And this is when the real mysterious story comes in. And this is like straight out of like an alien sci-fi movie. Like the music is super creepy. The world is half explored. You don't know what you're doing with technologies. And then like all this weird shit starts to happen. Like your units start disappearing, or you get random attacks in your cities, and it doesn't really explain anything to you. And that's kind of cool because they're putting the story first. I had a lot of fun with this game. Thank you, Pyronical, for once again making me play it. Basically, spoiler alert, the planet's entities, the mind worms and things that attack you, are all one entity. The planet is a living creature that you are trying to terraform like forests and farms on from human civilization. And you win the game. You win the game by building a monument that fuses all human minds to a computer, and that fuses the computer to the planet. So you fuse humanity to this new being, and this planet just keeps going through outer space, ready to absorb the next civilization that dares colonize it. And so you lose all your cities, you lose everything. You don't lose because you win, right? So you do all this effort to experience the story. It sounds so bad. It sounds so bad. But what's
the lose situation? The planet explodes? Like, what the fuck?
You can still lose if the other colonies kill you before you reach this story conclusion, or if your people rebel. So there's still ways, I guess, to quote unquote lose. But yeah, winning is losing. I guess winning is fusing yourself to this alien planet. And I just don't think there'd ever be a game like this ever made ever again. And maybe the pitfall of them trying to remake it in Beyond Earth is they're like, okay, people love alien civilizations and they love Civ, so we'll just put that together and people will love this. When it's like, no, dude, the people who played this new reimagining of Alpha Centauri wanted that weird, creepy, mysterious story that you just completely left out. They wanted to feel like suckers when all their hard effort resulted in them losing the game at the answer. Anyways, I don't know. What do you guys think about? I've been talking for a while. This great tale. It's like the weirdest 4X game I've ever played, like by far. Would you play this?
It's not. It's been a while since I've had a 4X game that has a good story. The closest thing I can come to was the prologue to Total War Warhammer 3, where the game actually gives you units, and if you lose them, you can't recruit any. And like, so it's like you really have to be careful. And there's like an actual story of how the game starts and the story starts. That's only like 2 hours long. But with anything weird like this in a 4X game, no, never.
Dude,
nothing.
I was like, I do what? They're like, we've built the supercomputer, we've fused all our minds, and now we're fusing with the planet, and then all my cities go up. I was like, what is happening?
You know, at the SimCity, the original SimCity also had a really weird ending, if you remember. At the end of that, I don't know how you beat the game, but if you did, all your buildings would just take off as if they had rockets underneath them. They would just lift off and fly into space. Do you remember that?
What is with these endings? I never experienced that. I don't think I beat that. They took off with rockets? What? What does that mean? That's so weird.
Maybe that's part of it. They're just like, hey, because you made it to the end, we're going to make it something that you won't forget.
Yeah.
Like,
And
yeah.
oh, sorry, the other thing I really need to mention is this only took me about 4 hours to do. So a normal Civ game, how long? Sometimes it can, I mean, even if you're on the really fast mode, a 4-hour Civ game I feel like is fast. But this is the default.
That's really fast.
Yeah, this is the default speed for this. And at the end, I was like, I don't really need to go back and do a different Civ and play this because I don't know. And when this game came out, it got like really well critically reviewed. Like everyone loved this. And then I feel like we just moved on from this idea of 4X games never having a real story. I don't know. So now this is my new white whale. I am searching for 4X games that put story first because I feel like this experience hit me well. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was a very good in-depth review. However, I think you should have done that in a reel instead of a 14-minute monologue.
Yeah, that was rough.
But no, it was.
could've
I
kept
think
the-
you could chop that up and make a really good short-form content. It was very in-depth.
Yeah.
I've seen this game before. I've seen another review about it. I've heard nothing but praises, but this is one of those situations where it's like the old graphics. I'm just like, nah.
Oh, yeah.
Like I have no nostalgia for these graphics, and I have no nostalgia for the gameplay, and so I have no want to play it. But I can definitely respect it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's also really hardcore, like, and it doesn't tell you anything. It's just an old game. I mean, they're all kind of like that to some extent. I feel like that was just how gaming was. I like how the UI makes you feel like you're watching the planet in a satellite. And like old games love this like huge, like maybe 30 or 40% of the screen is just covered in like a texture for holding all the buttons of your UI. And like a very small amount of the screen is for the actual gameplay. I love it.
It's
Yeah,
immersion.
It's immersion, which is what they were
Immersion.
going for with this. Yeah. Alpha Centauri, love you. Thank you for being around.
Speaking of immersion, real quick, since Nick put an update on as his highlights, I have one more update I kind of want to just briefly talk about, just to remind anybody out there that, you know, super indie game, nobody's ever heard of it, Call of Duty Black Ops 6. It has this really cool event going on, though, honestly, until January 24th. They did a crossover, whatever, with Squid Games, with Netflix's Squid Games 2, where you can be one of the players, and they brought some of the modes from the Squid Games into Call of Duty, and it's sick. It's awesome. They have red light, green light, where they took one of the maps. They have a map that's called Red Card, where it's like this huge football being soccer field that you normally fight and kill everybody in the bleachers and all around and right outside the parking lot. Well, they took the actual field and they made that the red light, green light field. So it's awesome, and it is very, very funny. Like yesterday, I think I recorded it. If I did, be ready for that reel coming out if I was able to record this, because me and my partner jumped in and we just started kind of going, my name's Jeff, and people started saying it, and if you talk while it's on red light, you die. And so there were quite a few people that would just say like, my name's Jeff, and then they just die from being shot like in the Squid Games. Have you guys seen the Squid Games on Netflix?
Well, yeah, I haven't seen season 2 yet.
I've seen the Squid Games. I have seen it. Yes.
The Squid Games?
The Squid
Squid
Game.
Games.
I've heard of the Squid Games. Yeah.
Bobby,
I'm on
have you
season
heard about
2,
the
but
show?
I'm not liking it about as much.
Yeah, it's not so like with the Call of Duty thing, it's not exactly season 2 specifically. Like the red light, green light is the exact same game as the first season. And then what's also really cool is they have another mode that's called Pentathlon, where I believe it's every like 2 or 3 minutes, the game mode changes, and it changes on the Squid Game side too. So like in 3 minutes or so, now it's domination, where you have to capture 3 points, but they are the 3 symbols that are in Squid Games. And then in 3 minutes, it changes to roulette, where you have to go find a pistol, like an old school, like just 5-chamber pistol, roll it, and then go kill people with that. And then in 5 minutes,
Is
it
there only
changes
one
to
bullet?
team deathmatch. I think there's like just a few bullets, but it's that single shot, like it takes a lot longer.
Right.
And then it'll change to like team deathmatch, where as you kill other players, the piggy bank all of a sudden collects more money with each kill. And then at the end of it, you have to capture the piggy bank to get the money. And then while you're running around playing, at any point, you can get a new like basically kill streak where you call in red light, green light. Where then as you're running chasing somebody, they'll go red light and everybody has to stop.
That's so funny. That's good. That's a great idea.
It's good. It's really fun. So anybody out there that gives a shit about AAA, I know in an indie game podcast we're so good at that, but like if anybody's playing Call of Duty, especially on Game Pass, like you have until January 24th to do a whole bunch of cool Squid Game stuff. So that's all.
Sweet. Yeah, that sounds fun. Asking Bobby if he watched Squid Games. He hasn't even watched, to my knowledge. Maybe he has Star Wars Andor, which is like
I've watched 2 episodes of that, I think.
That's
I don't watch TV really. It's
like
just
as
movies.
A rule, which is just whatever.
Yeah,
whatever.
if it's episodic, then I'm sorry, I'm out.
It's just part of the enigma. All right, on the radar. Speaking of Bobby, these are games that we haven't played but have caught our attention. And I hate this. What do you think about it?
So the game is Sand that I'm going to be talking about. And what a weird name for a game, Sand. It's not very exciting, right? But it's got some interesting ideas. So this is a PvPvE set in the desert, open world, base building, crafting, survival, the usual stuff, but set in the desert wilderness. What is really interesting about this game, though, is it's got these things called tramplers, and the trampler is your base, but it's a mobile base, which I thought was a really cool idea. So in a lot of these crafting survival games, you build a base and then you kind of conquer an area and then you branch out and you go to a different area and you build like a little outpost there. And then that kind of turns into its own base after a while. But this, you just have one base and it's got these big legs that walk around and you just move it wherever you need to go. It also kind of reminds me of Sea of Thieves in a way, because it's like your boat, basically. It's like your battleship. You've got
Megan
this
the
trampler.
Galleon.
Yeah, and you're just you're cruising along in it. You see somebody else out there, and then you start shooting stuff at them, and they're shooting stuff at you, and they try to board you or something. Like all sorts of cool stuff can happen. And you can completely customize these tramplers. Like you can build it block by block. If you look at the first video on the Steam page, it gives you a really good idea of what all you can do with this trampler. You can build it from the ground up. Like
that looks so cool.
Yeah, it's awesome. You build all the different rooms. You can build areas for storage, weapons, defense, like all these different things. It's kind of like a mech game in a way, or more like maybe Pulsar the Lost Colony or Void Crew. I haven't played Void Crew, but these games where you're a couple people on one ship and you have to like upgrade that ship in order to survive. So that's the aspect I really like. You know, I don't like those survival crafting games, but something that has like co-op where you have to man a ship like that. And I don't know, that seems very appealing to me. So go ahead.
I actually ended up playing this game a little bit and then getting really deep into the community when I was doing some home stuff. And it turns out that this game gets very deep on how things work as far as like how many players you should have in a party, because there's 3 different sizes of the walkers. And it's not always the best thing to be the biggest one because your legs can get shot down very easily and you can be like swarmed by little smaller ones. It is like an extraction shooter, so whatever you loot is whatever you keep, and like kind of like a Tarkov situation. The game is not very new player friendly, to be honest. This game, like, you need to have people to play with. You cannot play by yourself. You need to have at least another person to play with and kind of understand the game, because it requires absolute fucking teamwork to get these like bases to fight each other. And it's important too, because you usually get rewards for killing other players or taking over their walkers, and just loot and stuff. There's like strategies where you won't really because you use money to buy the parts and you use money to buy your own items. Usually some people will put all their money in their walker without buying their own weapons and stuff like that. But there's like strategies where you try to disable walkers and then take them over while like climbing up them and things like that. So it's very dynamic.
Wow.
I
seems so in depth.
Huh?
It seems so in depth. Nick, how many people did you end up playing it with? Is it like 4-player co-op?
One other person. It's up to 4 people co-op. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
What it is that this game, I think when it comes out and if it gets some streamer love, like Sea of Thieves did when it got like that big update and everything was working, I think this game could blow up. I think it's a very unique feature in the sense of it's not ships on the water. It's like walkers on the sand, which gets some people more excited. But the thing is, like the guns are very limited. The walker parts are very limited right now in the sense of like there's 3 big guns, there's 2 small guns, there's like all these other, like they definitely need to put in more.
So you can sign up for the playtest for this, and I recently got into it. I haven't played it just yet, but I was recently accepted into the playtest, which is why I'm bringing it up now. But I'm curious, since you've played it, what happens if you fall off the trampler and you need to get back on, but it just keeps going?
So it depends on what parts you have. I believe there's a way to like stop the trampler itself. You can also scuttle your trampler, although it's not really a good idea. That means you have to walk all the way to the fucking exit and you'll probably die. But there's not very much stopping you. You better hope it hits like a sand dune or a building or something.
So there's nothing like Sea of Thieves where they have a mermaid that you can just talk to and it ports you right back to the boat?
A sandworm?
No.
Shai Hulud intensifies. Jump on that shit.
No, there's nothing like that from when I played. I fell off and my buddy had to climb back up and stop the thing so I can get back on, and I only fell off like twice. We only played for like an hour and a half. But like I said, I watched a lot of fucking YouTube about this game, and it can get very in depth. It can get very sweaty very quickly.
Okay.
Oh, that's fun. I like this idea. I'm going to sign up for the playtest right meow. I'm going to hit this button, see if I get selected.
I got selected in 3 days.
Oh, okay. No need to show off, Nicholas. Jesus. Nick, what are you talking about?
Yeah, I was gonna say that's just Cruel. Which, speaking with Nick, how was that?
So Cruel is a game that I'm featuring on the radar this week. It's a boomer shooter. Sorry, roguelike card-based boomer shooter with retro graphics that's sitting at 96% as far as reviews go right now. It's only $10 and it released on the 9th. The art style is very, I don't want to say gore whimsical. It is just interesting. A lot of reds and browns in the color scheme and things like that. Upgrades are given to you in this card form and they kind of stack. You have a health bar and you have an ammo bar, and you really just go through the levels killing stuff. I didn't do too much looking up as far as like how long it takes to beat the game or not, but the game looks smooth. It looks like it doesn't have that many hiccups. But yeah, I would play this if I didn't have a bunch of other games to play right now. I do like boomer shooters. You do have an axe for an arm, or you can get other weapons for your arm. But it mixes melee, jumping, shooting, all the new kind of boomer shooter stuff and kicking that's all being added to these games all the time.
How did you find it, Nick? What makes this interesting for you?
I like the boomer shooter genre, especially after it kind of got revived to me after playing the boomer shooter Bolt Gun, which was the Warhammer boomer shooter. It wasn't the best, it wasn't the worst. I did have a good time playing it though. It just caught my eye because it was in my on the radar section, and I just ended up clicking on it and looking at it, and I'm like, oh, this looks interesting.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Card based. Cards going. I've just started playing Slay the Spire, like for the first time. When did it come out? 2012, 24. I feel like I've missed a whole thing. One time me and Bobby played a Warcraft 3 Slay the Spire map, and he was like, oh, this is cool. I see what they're doing. And I was like, what? I've never played the game this game is based on, and I have no idea what I'm supposed to do or what's happening. But anyways, to say that, I feel like cards belong in every game. If your game doesn't have cards in it, you just got to put some cards in it. That's
Put a card in it.
Put a card in it.
Put a card in it.
Cool.
So
on that, we have Amanda next. What's up with the Bustling World?
It is busy. No, so the Bustling World is a game that doesn't have a release date out, but it is going to be an open world RPG that's set in like ancient China. This drew my attention partly because of the aesthetic being hand-drawn painting, and it looks like a lot of really good physics have gone into it, realistic physics, and this kind of game just looks like there is so much built into it. Like it looks like an incredibly immersive world. The trailer that they have out right now is all real footage from the game. They explore various things in this game, like you have survival and you can cultivate, you have management, you have crafting, building, exploration, you can recruit, build an army, establish a regime, fight things. There's diplomacy you can involve yourself in. You can get really immersed in the chaos and the little things of people's lives and do all kinds of things here. There's stealthy things that you can do, and it just really looks like you can kind of do anything you want. And obviously there would be consequences to your actions, and the NPCs seem to be kind of on their own somewhat loop, it seems, from what I'm reading, in that they have their own kind of world in a way that they kind of deal with as well, which I think is super cool. I think I was reading there that they have their own history and you can build connections with them, but they also kind of have their own things. Well, they'll make their own decisions based on the relations to the different cities that you've made. And so every playthrough is going to be a complete brand new experience. And I just think that that's super cool. This seems to be a game that's going to kind of blur in between a bunch of games. You know, it's not quite a city builder, but there's city building elements. It's not quite strategy, but there's strategy elements. It's not quite just an RPG, but that's obviously a big part of it as well. And so I just think this looks like such not only a beautiful game, you know, that takes place in ancient China, but a game that looks like it's going to be a lot of fun to play and really amazing. So I'm definitely having this on my wish list, and I wish I knew when it was coming out, but I don't. So it's coming out, you know, in the near future.
This looks
The Bustling
amazing.
World.
This looks like a top-down Mountain Blade Bannerlord, Nick, or something like, you know, that's what comes to mind.
It reminds me of It reminds me of Manor Lords, because apparently you can get pretty far back as far as like the camera goes and like the actions you can do, where you're building different districts and buildings and stuff like that. However, it does get very niche down to the individual, where you can have like assassinations planned and stuff like this, and like specific actions. And there's somewhat of a story apparently. I ended up seeing this on a Instagram reel, and then my buddy, or technically like my in-law, he is all about Chinese history, especially during the time of like Three Kingdoms and stuff like that. And this game super resonated with him, and he did all kinds of research and like looked at Chinese websites. And it turns out that this game is promising a lot, and people are hoping it doesn't flop. So we'll see.
We'll see. It does look really wonderful. It's being developed by Firewoo Games, but this is their only game that they've made. So who knows? It could go any way, right? And so hopefully it goes well, but it looks great.
It looks so good.
That's why people are wary, is that, you know, this is their quote unquote first game, but the publisher has like a bunch of other games that they've published. And so people are like, you know, are they over promising? Are they only showing the things that currently work? Are they going to release one of the games actually done? Are they going to do an early access? This is on my wish list, and I'm keeping an eye on it. But you never know.
Yeah, it's on my wish list too, but I mean, honestly, dude, even with what they've showed us in the trailer, like, this looks better than some of the other full-fledged games out there, right? So, like, I still feel like even with what they're showing us, it's really promising, but what they have promised so far does look solid. You know, it's just a matter of whether this is going to be a flash in the pan and like a 2 to 5 hour burst of fun, or whether this is going to be the kind of game that you actually want to replay over and over again and sink a bunch of hours in, right?
It seems so deep to combine the RPG aspects with the city building and like the personal, like you have your own farmland plot and your own. I see people talk about KENSHI like this. I don't know if anyone has played KENSHI.
Oh, dude,
I haven't.
KENSHI is insanity.
So does that
God.
remind? Is that like a predecessor, like an inspiration for this game? I've heard KENSHI referenced all the time, and I've never played it. By the way, like it's like one of the best games of all time.
So KENSHI is that place that exists when you overdose on fentanyl and the Narcan hits you, and it's right before you wake up.
I don't know.
I've watched like 300 hours of KENSHI gameplay,
Yeah.
And the idea is that anyone can be anything. The way you can design your characters, the races that exist in the game. So it takes place on this post-apocalyptic planet, and there's like this feeling that anything that you see, there's always something bigger than it. The reason being is that you're walking around this planet and there's these huge fucking skulls and pieces of machinery and what look like mechs all over the place. There's the pools of giant blood, and you're like, what is this? You can be kidnapped, turned into a slave, even though you're just a baker in a town, and then boom, your life is transformed because they chopped off your legs. Like, that's just how the game plays. It is just nothing but chaos. There is scenarios. There are these predetermined things that you can do in the game. However, if you just do the free play mode, you can be ambushed by a bunch of robots and just be chopped up, and then you're game over. Or you could have your kidneys harvested in the middle of the desert and have to walk to the nearest area and hope somebody has an extra kidney that matches with yours. There's all different types of things. One of the gameplay videos that I saw, this guy had his arms and legs chopped off, but he learned how to lockpick with his mouth. And proceeded to escape from prison by rolling out of the facility. There's like cultists, there's like these religious fanatics, aka cultists with flair, barbarians, cannibals, all different kinds of things, and KENSHI is just insanity. I think you would love KENSHI. By the way, you would get lost in it, dude.
It look like, just looking at the Steam page seems trippy. I'm just like, why is there robots and whenever I see robots and dinosaurs together in the same game, I'm like, okay, I'm in for some sort of treat. This is probably an insane game.
One of the things I've heard about it, and it's 60% off right now. One of the things I heard about it is if you try to play it too seriously, you're always going to be doing the same things, right? You're always going to try to make the same things happen. But if you play in the game as you think a character would actually do things in the game becomes a lot more wild and unpredictable. So
play it like a role-play RPG, not like a min-max or something.
Exactly. Don't just be like, I'm putting 72 points in dexterity so I can use the sword of whatever, and then another point in like strength, and like, don't try to min-max it. Randomize things, play the game, and just see all the features in this game, because this is another game where it's like, you could play this game for 100 hours and discover new abilities and new features that you didn't know existed.
Dang. Wish this was, well, I don't know for sure. I just am assuming because it's an older game that it might not be super Steam Deck compatible, but I guess you never know.
You can zoom out really far in this game, so I don't think it would be Steam Deck compatible at all.
Okay. Ask me to play KENSHI, patrons. But that's not what we were talking about. Sorry, Amanda.
We were talking about the Bustling World. Yeah. That's what we were talking about, y'all. So that's okay. You know, from one empire to the other one. Christian, tell me about Airborne Empire.
Okay, this is going to be real quick. So Airborne Kingdom was the city builder in the sky. I beat a couple years ago. The weird gimmicky thing about that game was managing your propulsion and your lift and the weight of your city, as well as everything you would normally do in a city builder. So like food, resources, etc. And you took that floating city and you went around to different places on the ground and you helped them rebuild their kingdom in like this sort of chill story way. So it had like this pretty, I don't want to say intensive, but particular and specific mechanics on the city side, and then it was also like a chill exploration game as you moved your city around. So it was a neat mashup of those two kind of themes. Airborne Empire, from what I can tell, seems to be the exact same game, except now there is combat. So there are pirates that can attack your city, and there are ground stations that will blast you from the ground. So the chillness seems to be gone from the game, which I don't know how I feel about it, because I kind of like the chill aspect of Airborne Kingdom. So yeah, Airborne Empire comes out pretty soon here in early access, the 13th of January. I'm going to wait to see what the reviews do and maybe play a little bit of it before putting it in my Play on 1.0 Steam category. And yeah, I hope they've just added, I'm assuming, a bigger world, more interactions, more buildings, all of the typical stuff. But I'm looking for like mechanically, are they adding anything new other than combat? So yeah, that's on my radar.
Cool. Looks interesting.
Subs and donatos, Bobby.
Yeah, we've got the chat popping off this episode, which is nice to see. And during that craziness, looks like Fastidious donated 1,000 bits. Been a while since we got any bits, but thank you very much.
Yum 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 yum. I love biddies.
Thanks for the biddies, bits and bobs.
Love
All
it.
right, and we're going to get right into listener questions. We've got a few of them today. First one is coming from Pyronical, and he asks, what's your number one non-gaming, non-tech YouTube channel?
Primitive Technology. The originator of the genre, the actual real person doing it, still in the Australian outback, still being eaten alive by mosquitoes, and has feet thicker than concrete. Yeah, Primitive Technology.
Nice. Mine is Yes Theory. It's a group of bros at first. I don't know if they went to college together. They remind me of a lot of like bros from college, but they do a bunch of really crazy and cool ass shit, and they like document. They'll go out to literally the coldest place that has civilization on Earth and go explore that. I saw one where they climbed to one of the highest hotels in the world that's in like the Italian like up in the Italian mountains, and then they skied down. Like they're constantly doing absolutely wild things, and it's all based on this mindset of just saying yes and see where it goes. And there's like a group of I think like 5 or 6 of them that kind of interchange to different things, and so they're like the biggest yes men for travel, and it's really cool to watch what they do. But I also am gonna nominate as well like Channel 5 because it's great. But I feel like everybody does know about that one. Yeah, Channel 5 is great.
Channel 5
so
News.
good. Nick has the shirt.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, I do.
Yeah, but Yes Theory on YouTube is awesome if you want to get inspired or watch some really, really fascinating like travel and like people-based kind of things on YouTube. It's cool.
Very cool. You know what's funny is I do not watch a lot, or at least subscribe to a lot of gaming or tech YouTube channels. But one that I can definitely recommend if you are into movies is Red Letter Media. It's got to be one of the biggest channels out there, I think, for people who are into movies. But it's pretty long form discussions about movies, which I'm not like super into, but they're really good and worth it. So Red Letter Media, definitely recommend it. And Christian,
Nice.
You got
Sorry, I
something?
just last minute. There's this YouTube channel called Strong Towns, which is all about city planning, the history of city planning, the history of American and Canadian cities. Where did they come from? Why did they look like that? And kind of the current problems that some cities are going through, and then some of the solutions that this group is advocating for. So great YouTube channel, always comes with like a lot of data, a lot of references, like just really well researched, but also very technical. So it's not something you can really have up on the left monitor as you do work on your main one, more of a sit down and watch and see what they're saying. And I don't know how much local city planning is interesting to anyone who listens to this podcast. Certainly my other hosts, as I look at their faces, I see no interest. So
some blank stares.
yeah.
Let's just say that, Sniper, it's surprising to see that you have friends that share similar interests like yours. Because your interests are so fucking different sometimes, man. We love you, but we're like, go sit in the corner of city planning, okay? Go over there.
Nick, I feel like you're sliding out of frame slowly.
I am. So I fucked up my leg
Like, the whole episode.
and I'm like trying to get
He's leaving. Goodbye.
I fucked up my leg playing
Almost
soccer in the
fully
park.
recumbent there.
I have an expiry date on this episode, and when my head is out of the frame, I'm out.
It's a soft stop of an hour and a half recording. That's it. It's soft because he's just going to
This has
slide
been a long
out.
episode.
Yeah.
All right. Next question from Captain Gummy. List the top 1 to 3 most disappointing games played in the year 2024. They can be early access titles or DLCs.
First
I think Amanda,
Descendant.
you're the only one that's on. Yeah.
For me, yeah. I think a lot of the games that I was actually able to play last year weren't disappointing because I wasn't able to play too many games. Like from basically March to November, I wasn't really able to play too much. So the games I did play, I had been like chomping at the bit to go play them. But I got like early, what is it? No, like I got into the beta access for First Descendant, and I did not like it. I get that obviously like it wasn't complete and everything like that, but even the way that it was set up, I don't know. I just didn't like playing it that much. I felt like it was too, I don't know, like anime-y, I guess. Like it just wasn't my thing. I was really disappointed with it, and I didn't have that much fun. I got really bored after like an hour of playing with it.
It
I
was
like,
no
"Ah, it's the
Call of
same
Duty
thing."
Black Ops 6. Let's say.
Yeah.
It's not an ADD. It's not an ADD game. Okay, that's what it is.
Yeah.
We got it.
Yeah. So that one I think is the only one really that I would say I was very disappointed in. All the
Yeah.
others are pretty cool.
I couldn't even think of one when I saw that question. I was like, I'm sure there was games. I was like, refund, but none of them, nothing that really sticks or comes to mind that like, sticks out.
I would say 2024 has to be one of the years that I actually really, really, really processed games before I bought them. In the sense of like one example is like Starfield was the game that kind of was the straw on the camel's back that broke it. In the sense of like a lot of people thought Starfield was going to be great, was going to be amazing, all this stuff, and I just wasn't a big fan of it.
Right.
But we're going to talk about that later.
Ooh, interesting. Cool. Oh, we will. Right. Ha ha ha.
All right. Do I sound normal to you guys? Because you're all choppy to me, so I feel like my internet has gone bad.
Your internet's gone bad, buddy.
You sound great to us, dude. But can you hear? But we no?
All right.
He's fucking with you, by the
Maybe
way.
somebody else better read the... Okay, I do sound fine.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, you
I'll take
sound
your word
fine.
for-
You sound
You guys
good.
are choppy as hell. I don't know what's going on here. Okay. Next question is from Zap. He asks, well, he's got 2 questions. What's your proudest gaming achievement?
I'll go first. It's an old one. My proudest moment in gaming, I think, has been when I was playing Morrowind, Elder Scrolls 3 on the Xbox, and had beaten the game like 3 separate times. And I used to like do these LAN parties with my closest friend. Her name was Leela, and we would set up our Xboxes next to each other and TVs next to each other, and we would just mess with stuff because we loved doing the spell making. And so at that point, at least, because like I said, we had finished the game and we wanted to just make ridiculous spells and see what we could get away with. And we were really trying to figure out how can we change our attributes and how can we change our skills. And so we came up with this spell where you targeted something and it increased the attribute. So like we first tried with like strength of increasing by 10 on target. And we started just kind of casting it around at each other. And she had found this thing because she did it on accident, actually. She went to run and she just went to cast and she hit the wall and it bounced back on her and she permanently increased her strength by 10. And then we were like, what? This is great. So I applied that to the to the skills. And it was kind of like, next thing we know, we like ran through the game and jumped up. So we ended up like posting this cheat on Cheat CC, and it got featured. And I was like, I'm super proud of that because I was a part of that, of inventing this cheat where we actually made ourselves have like 3,000 speed and run out of the game, which is hilarious. Or like
That's awesome. That's great.
or like 1,000 strength, and you just do one hit on anything, and they like it broke the game. Like the enemy would just literally launch backwards and die, and it was so funny to watch. But it was just like, yeah, it came from like kind of just tinkering with the spell making mechanic, and it all started from her accidentally hitting the wall and us realizing that it bounces. And
there are people listening right now who did that in a game. There are people who are going to be like, "Oh my god, that was her." There are going to be people who yeah.
I hope so. That's why I'm proud
This
of
is-
that. That is the best gaming achievement because I know for a fucking fact that I put that cheat on cheatcc.com. Like it did not exist before. So y'all are welcome.
That is a fucking memory of a website. Jesus Christ.
That's awesome.
Yes.
I only have an answer for the first part of this one. My proudest gaming achievement is actually perfecting Call of Duty World at War. Only because I made a bet with my buddy, whoever can perfect it the most, and we were both hung up on the same last achievement, which was shooting down every single plane in the Pearl Harbor, I think, or Midway mission. I can't remember which one it was. But essentially, you're being attacked by a bunch of planes. You're in a AA gun, and you have to shoot them all down. And boy, howdy, I think it took me at least 60 tries. And you have to do it on the hardest difficulty because you die super fast. And the only reason why I did the achievement, even though I tried a bunch of times before and I took another crack at it, was my internet was down. And so I was like, fuck it, I can't play multiplayer, so I'm just going to keep trying this achievement over and over and over again. And it took me at least 7 hours, 6 hours.
Dude, you were always an achievement hunter. That's cool to know. That's sweet.
Yeah. But that's it.
All right. And Zap's second question, why don't you play more VR?
I got no response to that.
I do. My VR is very old, and you know what? That's a good point though, because I do have a much more powerful PC now that I think I can hopefully use the Quest 2 on. It started doing this thing, my Quest, where like the frames started breaking in one eye, so I felt like I was having a stroke anytime I tried to play
KENSHI.
VR because because my entire vision would just start going like wow, wow, and it's the headset, and so like that messed me up. But I'd love to get kind of back into VR and check out more things in it, but we will see. I'm thinking in the future I will get to have more access to VR, so we will see.
Sweet.
All right. No VR in your future, Christian?
God, no.
No.
I don't know why I said it like that. It's perfectly, yeah, VR is cool,
Wow.
but so expensive. We already broke the budget with this one Steam Deck, so we'll see.
Yeah. I don't know why I don't like VR. It's really the hurdle for gaming for me. Like sometimes I barely have enough energy to like double click on a game and sit through the splash screens to like get into a game. Like VR is a whole nother thing, you know?
He's just a husk of a man. He just
All right. Next
just
question from
insert DRG Survivor into this man's veins. That's all he needs via IV. Sorry.
All right. Next question from Morconius. On a previous podcast, you had an interesting discussion about Bethesda games and procedural generation being used in a variety of ways. It's telling that none of you mentioned Starfield. Why do you think the game has fallen flat and hasn't built a big following? For me, the lore and world of Starfield is about as interesting as a dinner roll, but they did nail exploration and some RPG systems. Yeah,
Nick, you had.
So, I would say I can talk about this a little bit. So I had a gripe with Starfield since its previews and everything like that. Bethesda, the reason why they haven't released a new Fallout or a new Elder Scrolls is I think what they're testing with Starfield kind of was kicked in their faces, and the overarching argument is the fact that the game feels soulless, even with procedural generation, whatever. It feels soulless, and I don't mean soulless because there's a lack of choices of what to talk about in the game, or there's a lack of abilities or a lack of guns or whatever. It just feels like the game has it just feels like corporate panhandling. And a lot of people saw it for that. First of all, the game didn't work half the time. As far as like going places, exploring planets was useless because really you would just run somewhere, shoot 5 guys, and then just loot and then skedaddle, and that's it. It's different. I think one thing about space and like their other big games is like when you deal with a Skyrim or an Oblivion or a Morrowind, you are on a plane of existence. It is a treat to leave that plane of existence and go to Oblivion or wherever the fuck you're going. But you're mostly in this one place and there's like a sandbox that you can play with. When you expand that too far and you can't see the edges of the wood, you just get lost and it doesn't feel like you're playing with anybody or playing with anything in particular. With Fallout, you feel like you're part of this dynamic world that has survived something, and your interest is dependent on the idea of mutation. Like you want to see what has changed in society based off of the bombs dropping, what has survived, what hasn't survived, and things like that. Stargate is fly to this planet. Why are these people mad? Kill the people that they're mad at. That's it. There's not that much soul to the game itself, and I think that's why it's not really the RPG systems, it's not really the gameplay, it's just the writing, the voice acting, all that kind of stuff. It just has no soul.
My comment was more, I listened to what you guys were talking about for procedural generation, and I think procedural generation is just any system of procedural generation. So like the guns in Borderlands, they are not manually designed. They are procedurally generated with stats based on where you are at in the game and what level you are. So I think procedural generation can be a great thing. And when it's used for terrain, it can also really help speed up development of like a big open world like Skyrim or whatever. But I think how you guys were using it is that it's just a way to create empty space, which someone correct me if I'm wrong, but for Starfield, I thought it was only a certain amount of space on a given planet you could explore, or that was interesting to explore, like purposefully, only around the towns and quests and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Like it was like they pitched you idea of like there's this whole planet that you can go to, kind of like No Man's Sky. But the thing about No Man's Sky is if you do search the planet, you can access way more of the planet than you could in Starfield. There's plenty of things to do. The fauna, the flora, all that stuff changes based off of what longitude and latitude you are on the planet and things like that. But in Starfield, you're really just dealing with the set little zone that they give you. And you're like, I get that not every planet's viable, but why is every planet kind of the same kind of mix-up?
Right.
So, I think that's what I have more of a problem with.
Cool.
You know, and it probably didn't help that it didn't have an existing IP. Like if you called it Skyrim in space, threw a few shouts in there, maybe it would have done better. I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, like, I'm a massive fan of Bethesda and like have been, but to me, Starfield, like, and this is going to be a hot savage take, but I was actually kind of bored at the end of the trailer of Starfield. So to me, I wasn't the biggest fan of even trying it because I kind of knew that it wouldn't have the depth that the previous games in the other genres have. Or have had. And I think part of that too is just like, I mean, people have been saying, everybody's been saying it for a long time that like Bethesda really needs a new engine. It's
100%.
Yeah. So like, and I think that kind of played into it as well, is that it was just another thing that didn't have that. And so I don't know, on one hand, like it would have been, I'm sure, great, but I certainly didn't feel the hype around it like I have before, or like I'm hoping that the same thing doesn't happen with the new Elder Scrolls coming out. But then again, when is that going to happen? Maybe when I retire, I don't know. But so we'll see. But yeah, like I think with Starfield, like that's what I was worried about when they had the whole thing that they were talking about with this procedural generating and stuff like that with the different planets, is that I felt that it was going to be a lot like No Man's Sky, But No Man's Sky in the beginning, when they first released that was a problem, that like a lot of the new planets and a lot of the things that they created were empty and hollow, and like they didn't have a lot of weight or things to do. And so I worried that would be the same launch with Starfield, and it definitely sounds like it became that, right? So
Fus Rosa powers the hyperdrive. Fusro Ya powers the lasers. I like the idea of Skyrim in space all of a sudden. I don't know.
yeah, I'm gonna create a ship, call it Parthenux. Yeah.
Let's do it. All right, next question from J. Beck Quest. Pretend all the casters got invited to the Gaming Olympics. Which 3 games would you put in the Olympics to ensure your victory against the other casters?
Against the Storm, obviously. You guys couldn't come for my logistical. Well, maybe you could. I don't know. It would be interesting to see. Billionaire, because we would all just drop it down. But I feel like it's all about the tree into jump rope into sandwich ingredient meta for that game. And you guys don't even know what I'm talking. So I think I'm crushing it at Billionaire. And then chess, because I don't know. I don't know if Amanda or Nick plays chess, but I know I beat Bobby in 3 turns. So at least I'll be good for one.
Bobby, he will hold that over your head until the day you die, dude.
Mm-hmm.
And he will say,
Oh boy.
he will say that at your goddamn eulogy. Like, one time I had my fondest memory with Bobby was when I beat him in 3 moves in chess. I knew he lacked the same intellectual capability as me, but I loved him anyway. He was a good friend and a better robot. Thank you. Have a good day. And then we launch him into space.
Nice.
Yeah. Well, and before that, I mean, and then, you know, when Christian's on his deathbed, and he's going to be looking at Mara and be like, but at least I beat Bobby in chess.
In 3 moves, nonetheless.
And she's going to be like, what?
The earlier question, it is my proudest gaming achievement. You got me. Come on. Yeah. How about you, Amanda? What do you got?
For me, it's tough because it's like, I mean, I don't know. I feel like I'm actually kind of probably middling compared to a lot of you guys. It's when I think of one that I'm like, yeah, I'd probably beat everybody. Here comes Nick. I'm like, oh yeah, Tarkov, come at me, bro. Here comes Nick. If I were to be like, oh, you know, I think I'm pretty decent at, especially like tactical turn-based strategy games, but then again, I don't know. And also, here comes Nick. Nick is my biggest rival, I think, with a lot of the games that I would put up with the Olympics.
You got to take him out before the Olympics.
But I think it'd be pretty fun. Yeah, some shooters, some survival games like Ark, but then again, Nick again.
No, I don't think the only reason I'm decent at Ark is because I have free time. If you give me a limited amount of time, I think it would suck.
That's fair. You know what? That would be the playing field. That is the handicap on the game that I would demand, is that we have a limited amount of time, and I think I'd actually really beat Nick at Ark with that. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
I know I'd beat Bobby. He's starting to get into survival crafting again, but I'd like to see him try with Ark.
Oh, I spawned on the beach. Oh, I'm being eaten by a T-Rex. This is a great game.
I do like the idea of like a DLG caster Olympics of some sort where we each pick a game to challenge everyone else to. That could be fun.
That could be fun.
I could bankrupt everybody and just play Magic. That would be a good time.
Yeah, that's not fair. That's a pay-to-win model. Come on. You've already got a huge head start.
Get the loot boxes out of here.
He's like, I got a power 8, Commander.
Actually, I do.
I know you do.
All right, final question from The Lotion. When I fire up a game for the first time, the first thing I do is adjust my settings. I always turn off motion blur because it sucks. I turn down the music to 50% because it tends to overpower sound effects. And I turn VSync on to prevent screen tearing. What are some settings you adjust when you play a game?
Film grain. Fuck that shit.
Oh, yeah.
Which is in a surprisingly large amount of games now. I don't know why. When it was in Left 4 Dead, I was like, okay, they're going for the old classic horror movie thing, but now I see film grain in like modern games, and I'm like, why? Doesn't make any sense.
That's honestly how I feel about motion blur. I hate that motion blur isn't everything.
Same here.
That shit makes my stomach flip. I'm like, is there a single... You know what? How about this? If anybody is listening in the chat or listening to our video, just go ahead and ping me or tell us at DLG, Like, I like motion blur. I'd love to see if anybody does it. Like,
And tell
I'm
me
not a
why.
fan. Yeah, tell me why. Motion blur sucks.
That setting is usually on by default too, which doesn't make any sense. And I think they're trying to make it more cinematic, but it just doesn't work in a video game. It's like trying to argue that 30 frames a second is better than 60. It's just, it doesn't make any sense for a video game.
No, it's gross. I also like to turn the music down too, because typically these games when they start, like I remember the first time Baldur's Gate 3 loaded up, and I was like, "Oh my god!" I mean, the music is great, but you're blowing out my eardrums. So
the worst offender is the one that we talked about earlier. Is Ark. Ark has to be the one that has caused deafness in my ears more than the goddamn Navy at this point. Was the fucking.
And they come out so strong. It's like fanfare just blasted it into your face. I have
no
jump
warm-up or
scared
anything.
from Ark almost as much as Amnesia. Just because of the
Just from the
music.
loading
It's
screen.
stupid. The loading screen scares me every time. Oh my gosh. I also had to change it to like a windowed full screen as well, because a girl be multitasking. I've got to have my things up, and I can't do it if it's a true full screen. So I like windowed full screen on everything. That's a genuine first time, every time.
All right. Yeah, I just use, they renamed the application for the NVIDIA cards now. They've got a new name for it, and I can't remember what it is. I think they just call it the NVIDIA app now.
Yep, that's what they
It
call it
used
now.
to be like GeForce something, but yeah, now it's
GeForce
just called
Experience.
NVIDIA. But you can go in there and you can just tell it to optimize a game. It takes your card and it picks the best settings for it. I've gotten the habit of doing that because it makes it just so much easier now. If you got an AMD card, I don't know what to tell you. Maybe they got something like that.
I'm glad they
Just two
switched to
cockroaches
your
programming.
style of naming, though, Bobby. It's just NVIDIA app. There you go. Straightforward.
NVIDIA.
That's all it is.
It knows how my computer thinks. It shall adjust the settings. Thank you.
All right, folks, I think that is it. What's everybody playing next week?
Bro, I'm usually so well planned. I don't know what I'm playing next week. My life is, I got a free weekend coming up, which usually doesn't happen either, where I'm not doing anything. So it might be time to try and play a multiplayer game because I have nothing going on. I don't get a lot of free time, and it might be Marvel Rivals. Maybe I can hop on with Nick or Amanda or Emilio, whoever else is playing in the community, and try some of this game everyone's talking about.
Let's do
Not
it.
I, because in my response to that question of what I'll be playing is I'll be playing Flying to California to take care of my dad for 6 days because he just had major reconstructive back surgery. Yeah, so I'll be gone for the podcast next week. I don't know what we're doing for the MTG podcast, but not playing anything really.
All right.
All right.
Last week, I promised I was going to play the game that Emilio had bought me, but I did not. That is Scald Against the Black Priory, so I'll be playing that this week. And if I have some time, I'll be checking out Sand. Gonna get into some sand. Gonna get deep into some sand.
God, you and Anakin Skywalker just love rolling around in that. Disgusting. What are you playing, Amanda?
I'll probably be joining you with some Marvel Rivals, or Call of Duty, Black Ops, or I'd like to finish Neva as well, but I think I'm actually pretty close, so
Nice.
that'll be nice.
Alrighty, Nick, close this show down.
Everybody, thank you for listening to this week's DLG podcast. On behalf of Amanda, Bobby, Christian, and myself, Emilio Not Here Titties. Thank you.
Nice. And what music are we hearing, Nick?
This week we are hearing, I believe, the theme song, or not theme song, the menu music to Sid Meier's Alpha Centauri.
Bye. It's weird. I'm telling you, it's all weird.
It is a little weird, but I kind of like it.
It's so weird.
It's gross. I don't like it.